Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the Community Trail Running Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lee. Thank you for joining me once again. So many podcasts out there, and I so appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with me. Today, we have friend of the show, Myke Labelle, on talking about the Kusam Climb. The small village of Sayward, BC has a rather large event coming up, and Myke tells us all about it. We also chat a bit about the business side of making the race work, especially for something like the Kusam Climb. So it's a really fun conversation. I learned a lot as usual with Myke. Can't wait to share that with you all after just a bit of housekeeping. First part of that, thank you all again for your continued support. Please keep liking, rating, subscribing, sending it to your trail running friends. I really appreciate all of that. And a huge shout out to all of the guests who have made themselves available recently. It's not an easy time of year for most, and yet we continue to put out episodes. I've got episodes for the next 2 weeks as well. So thank you all so much. It's been incredible. Next week, we chat with Sunny Pert of Black Trail Runners. Sunny's a great interview, and it was awesome to learn about the organization Black Trail Runners, and I look forward to sharing that with all of you next Monday, January 16th, and I'll let you know the next guest then. I am currently on Galiano Island, taking part in my first in-person board meeting with the Galiano Trail Society. I'll have that post coming soon about my exciting new position, and as mentioned last episode, we're hiring a trail coordinator, so the posting is in the podcast notes. Check that out. I'm really excited for my role with the society, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the Kusam Climb. Today's guest is Myke Labelle, friend of the podcast. He's been here a bunch before. We've chatted races of his. We've chatted with people who've run his races, and today we've got another race to chat, the Kusam Climb. Myke, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's stoked.
It's always great to catch up with you. I have just been learning about the Kusam Climb, and rather than trying to describe it myself, why don't you just hit us with it?
Okay, so Kusam Klimb. So give you a little history. It's in this tiny, what was a fishing town and a forestry town called Sayward. It's about 45 minutes north of Campbell River on the east side of Vancouver Island. And basically a guy named Bill, he moved up there and built this trail basically out of his backyard up from basically sea level up to the top of this mountain, which is at about 5,400 feet.
Awesome.
And then they decided, because their community was struggling with, people leaving because the forestry industry was slowing down and the fishing industry was slowing down, to put on this event. And thus the Kusam Climb was born. So it's a 23-kilometer race. I say race, but it's also a hike. It caters to both the trail running type and also the hiking type. So we see finishing times, relative to the 23-kilometer distance that it is, around 2.5 hours, all the way up to 9 hours. The 5,400 feet of climbing comes in one 6-kilometer chunk. It's not spread out over the 23K. It's like you run about 1.5 kilometers on the road, and then you take a right-hand turn up Sabre Road, and then you start, you climb for 6 kilometers. And it's an amazing event. Like, I did it in 2008, and I swore I'd never do it again. And I did the Elk Lake 50K at the beginning of May, and then I did the Soul 50K in Kelowna at the beginning of June. And then I had my upper wisdom teeth taken out about a week before the race. And I just thought, like, oh, it's no different from like doing, like, let's say like Mount Finlayson or the Grouse Grind or something like that, And then I did it, and I pretty early on, like, I think I must have been like on the actual trail for less than 5 minutes. I was like, this was a horrible mistake. Like, it is the real deal. Like, it is hard. It is, but it's gorgeous. Like, the views are incredible. Like, you get to see some of those like beautiful coastal mountain views. Like, we do it on the summer solstice every year. So there's snow, which is always a fun piece to add in there. My experience with the snow was quite entertaining. I didn't realize that, you probably shouldn't wear short running shorts, because back in the day, that was when like the short split running shorts were the thing, and I have the
Mm-hmm.
body for it. I don't quite have that anymore, but
Confidence is everything.
you know what? Back then it was confidence was everything, right? I didn't have to use as much body glide as I do now. But anyways, uh, yeah, I was sliding down this thing, and like my whole backside was like, my butt was all like shredded from like sliding on the snow. So my piece of advice to anybody is, don't wear split shorts.
Mm.
But it was just this race that I think it just every year people just flock to this tiny little town. Like the town of Sayward is 250 people.
Oh wow,
Like it's tiny, and the race attracts. I think right now we're sitting about just over 660 registrations for it.
that's awesome.
So we're bringing three times the town to the town in June. So yeah, it's a pretty cool event. My team and I, we were talking about it. Just kind of like casually, just saying that it hasn't happened since before COVID. The last year they did it was 2019, and so basically kind of how I got involved with it was, my mom of all people was on Facebook, and she said, "Hey, I saw this post on Facebook that there's this race. I think it's called the Kusam. I was like, oh, the Kusam Climb." She's like, "Yeah, apparently they're looking for a new race director." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I reached out to them and said, "Hey, I hear you guys might be looking for a new race director. Myself and my team were interested. Let us know." And they said, "No, no, I don't know where you saw that. Can you send us the post?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." So I asked my mom. I was like, "Oh, can you find me the post?" She said, "Well, no, I can't find it anymore." So I was like, "Okay, maybe my mom's making stuff up or something." Uh, so a couple weeks later, or actually a couple months later, a few friends of mine were up there, and they ran into Bill, who built the trail, and they got talking with him, and they got Bill's email, and they passed it along to me and said, "Yeah, Bill would be stoked to have you guys up there again and get the race going again." So I emailed up to him, and Bill was, he's one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. Like the guy, if he could like buff out that trail with like floor polish, he would. He goes up there with hand pruners, chainsaws. Like that trail is the best kept trail in the province. And he just loves it. He actually won an award. I can't remember what it was, but it was like the not the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, but something along those lines for his work on the trail.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I reached out to him, and then he said, "Yeah, let me talk to the committee. We're meeting, I think a couple days later." And then they reached back and said, "Hey, we'd actually would like to take you up on your offer, to take the race on." So I met with them, and with Lisa and Kim and Bill, and yeah, we basically came to this thing like, let's get this race going again, and let's make it amazing. And not that it's not already, but let's get people here and show them how beautiful this part of the island is, how great this event is. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. From a race directing perspective, like, to be able to support that community and keep the intention of the race is really important to me. But also to show people like how incredible, like people say Finlayson Arm is really tough. I think this is harder. Like it is so hard, and it's only 23K. But I was saying to you before we started recording, like Nick Elson, his record for just the climb portion, the 6K climb portion, is like an hour and 1 minute, like on Strava.
Right.
And I think his course record is like 2:14 for 23K. Like it's no joke. Like it's so hard, and it's just such a great event.
And we also chatted a bit before we started recording. You mentioned the original intention of the event was to bring people to Sayward, to support the community, and we also chatted about the realities of today, and everyone has to pay the bills and make both of those work. So, how do you take on your role there and level both of those needs?
Yeah, the big thing for us, like you're saying, we want to make sure that we continue to support the community. This event was built to support their community financially. So part of the entries the entry fees will still go back to the community. That's something that we've made sure that we had that agreement. We're also working really hard to get people to donate to the 3 charities that we have set up. So Camel River Search and Rescue is one of them. They send volunteers to basically this hike up to the summit every year at the checkpoints. They're also the search and rescue organization that covers that area. Sayward Valley Fire Department. Obviously, in the last few years, there's been a real smaller communities have been really hit trying to find volunteers and to basically and funding for volunteer fire departments. And of course, that's crucial to any small community to have a readily accessible fire rescue service. And then the Sayward Community Hall, which is kind of like a little bit of a hub for their community. I mean, they only have 250, 230 people that live in that town, but it's important to have those kind of centers of connection. For us, it's the trails, right? We connect with
Mm-hmm.
our friends and family out on the trails. And for them, a lot of these people, it's the community hall. So we wanted to really make sure that we supported those those 3 charities as much as we could. And then the money that we have from race entry fees that go to basically the organization, the Kusam Klimb organization, they will divvy it out to other kind of charities or 3 that we have. So like Santa's Anonymous, Sayward has a small health clinic that they want to keep the doors open for, library, certain other things, that benefit the community. So it's very much a community oriented event. And, and
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to make sure that we kept that. Obviously, like I said, we have bills to pay. We got products to buy, like food, flagging tape, all those different
Mm-hmm.
logistical things. I've got staff to pay. But at the end of the day, it's important that we support this community because that's what it was there for.
Is there like a balance between growing the series and like when you say you had to buy all those supplies, everything, and like that, obviously there becomes breaks the bigger you are. Is there a balance for that to kind of grow and be at a certain level to make those costs worthwhile so you can go to places like Sayward and put on an event and make sure that everyone benefits?
Yeah, I think, like for me, so Coastline Endurance Running has the Finland's Arm races and then now the Kusam Climb. And then, the Vancouver Island Trail Running Series is kind of a co-partnership with front runners. So yeah, having access to those resources is huge, right? It definitely will cut the cost down for certain events. And I mean, like we have, strong community connections with different suppliers. So let's say water, like bottled water,
Mm-hmm.
is a big one, right? So I mean, we have a really, really strong connection with Old Victoria Water Company, to source, obviously food safe water, right? Because I mean, I think a lot of people forget, like it's not just filling, buckets up with hoses. We want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the water source that we use is good for people. So sometimes you have to pay for that. So that's important to have those community connections, and then it'll obviously help provide a really like class A event. And that's my goal with it, is to, nothing they've done is wrong. It's just, adding that kind of, I call it the coastline endurance touch
There you go.
to it, to make things, better or cleaner, just kind of around the edges. Because I mean, they're sitting on a. I told them this when I met with them. I said, you guys are sitting on a gold mine here. This is probably one of the best events around because of what it is and the culture that it's created. So yeah, it's finding that balance is important, but I think we're pretty good at getting to that.
Well, if they're sitting on a gold mine, that means there's a gold rush to get in on. I'm sure people want to know how they can sign up for the Kusum Climb. Maybe they want to volunteer. Tell them how they can check it out and any other events that you might be hosting. Give them the goods.
Perfect. So the website is www.kusamklimb. So that's KUSAMKLIMB.com. And then of course there's the Vancouver Island Trail Running Series. So we've got our 6 races here on Vancouver Island, Royal Roads here in Victoria, Cobble Hill, Nanaimo, Port Alberni, Mount Washington, and then Qualicum Bay. And then Finland's Arm, those races will open on February 14th, which is Singles Awareness Day, or Valentine's Day as it's commonly known. So we have 8 races that we put on, and yeah, they're just a lot of fun. And I have a great team with Lori Heron, Steve Mandy, Jody Mucha, Adrian Walton, Sylvia Grant, and Hannah Karanko. So pretty fortunate with those guys to work alongside with them.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Huge thank you to Myke Labelle. Huge thank you to all of you listening. Shout out to race volunteers everywhere, including those who will volunteer at Kusam. Until next time, I'm Adam Lee, and this is Community Trail Running.